thank everybody for showing up. I know some of you just come here to be entertained, so hopefully I can entertain you. If anybody else got up, especially coming here and see me do this, maybe I can teach you something. So, so what we're going to do today is this is an ornament that I did for the show and for the Christmas gift exchange for here, and also for two other woodworking clubs. Was that ornament? Several people had showed an interest in that, and that was something I could do that would take the least amount of preparation. It's very similar to a previous presentation and video, YouTube video that we have. These were based on a one before, or two before, so the bodies are 1.5 inches thick, where this one needed a little bit larger body. You can see here's one here that's very much the same, but that's got a 1-inch hole, and it's got a very small ornament in the center of the body. And I wanted something that just had a little more glitter on it. And this is the smallest that I could find, was this little miniature Christmas ornament here. So I needed to have a bigger hole in order to be able to fit that in there, so I had to go to a bigger body to do that. So that's what we're going to do, and the presentation is basically the same as what's on this paper. The YouTube video, there's one on the globe preparation, and there's another one on the finial and icicle. And again, you know, if you want this paper, the standard gwa-turner@hotmail.com, and I'll get you a copy for you. I'm going to start off with a block of wood. Like I say, the ones that I did in the paper was based on a 2x4. The title was Quick, Easy, and Cheap. The cheap being the material was made of was 2x4. Well, this is this is a piece of maple, and I had to go up to a 1 3/4 inch block in order to be able to drill a hole big enough for the larger ornament. So the thing we're going to do is we're going to need to do some preparation work on this block. And my finial and icicle is based on a tenon, a 1/4 inch tenon, and a 45 degree taper, and a 1/4 inch tenon. So I make a 1/4 inch hole in the block with a 45 degree cone. And then the body comes out. So we got the body like that. And now you could make, with this in mind, if you make the block the same size hole, the block should be fairly close to being the same. And the finial and the icicle both have the 1/4 inch tenon and a 45 degree taper. So you could make bodies one day and finials and icicle another day, and then they'll all fit together. So this is what I make. The hole like that, the 1/4 inch hole. The reason I have a 1/4 inch hole is because I turn the body on a pen mandrel. So that's the purpose of the 1/4 inch hole in the body. And then the 45 degree taper in there, I can put a 45 degree taper on the icicle and finial, and they fit together. Now I could put a flat surface on there, and then to make a flat surface on the finial and icicle, I could cut it flat across there. But then if there wasn't a perfect match, you would see a gap. You'd see if you didn't have a perfect fit, it would be a gap. Plus, I like this, the presentation you have here with that little bit of relief there, a bit of a shadow line when you put the body. You have that little bit of a shadow where the body or the finial and icicle meet the body. So if it doesn't fit perfectly, it doesn't show. It's not quite so critical to have such a perfect match. And if I had a flat surface here and flat surface here, I still like that little bit of relief there, so it'd be harder to get the exact precise diameter to taper down to meet exactly where the flat surface is on the body. So this way, with that 45 degree taper, I determine how big I want the opening to be, and I just go in with I start out with a spindle gouge, and I finish off with a countersink bit, and I end up with exact 45 degree. I don't have to worry about it. And then all my concern is to make a 45 degree on here, and the way I do that is my spindle gouge has a 45 degree taper on the bevel. Hold the tool perpendicular to the bevel and push it in. It makes a 45 degree taper on here. It's that simple. Like I say, you can make it other angles if you wanted to, but you'd have to compensate for it, and you'd have to have some other way to get it in here. So just doing a 45 degree, they have a countersink bit out here that's a 45 degree or 90 degree combined angle. So it's just very easy, and it's easy to be consistent. And like I say, you can make finials and icicles one day and bodies another day. If they all have that same taper and quarter-inch tenon, they're all going to fit together. Yeah, it's just a matter. I set the table. I start out with this is just a rough piece of bandsawed material, and I put it on the table saw, and I set the. I want to end up. No, I wound up with 1 3/4. So I set the table saw to 2 inches, the fence, and I run it through the fence that way. I rotate it so this flat surface is down. Run it through the fence again, and now I got a 90-degree angle right there. So then I decide I've still got to trim these two surfaces here. So I decide if there's any imperfections on the wood that I want to trim off, I'll take less off over here and more off over here to try to get rid of that imperfection. But the end thing is I get the fence down to 1 3/4, run it through like that, run it through like that and like that at 1 3/4, and I get it's perfectly this way. And now you can turn it this way and run it through the table saw that way, or you can just go to the chop saw. I put it on the chop saw. I put a stop block here with the blade down here and adjust my stop block there, so I got the same width here, and then I just turn my block like that, and when I chop it off, then it should be a cube.
The length of this 1 3/4?
Yeah, it's a cube, 1 3/4 inch cube. And the reason I do that is you'll see when I put it in the chuck, I'm going to turn it all different directions, and since it's a cube, it all fits in the chuck the same way. Now you could make it a bit longer, and with this is 1 3/4 this way. You could make it longer, and you could take off 2 of the jaws and put it in the chuck, but then you'd have to fiddle with, because when you start cross drilling that, you'd have to have the center in the same spot on everything. So if it's a cube, when you stick it in the chuck, it's going to be in the center. Okay. So I start off just using a center finder and more ground mark, and I've then used an awl to mark the center. And I use the point on the live center when I put it in the chuck. It should be very close to being in the center, but when I put it in the chuck, I use that just being in there loose. I'll bring the live center up to fit in my point there, and then I can tighten it up, and I know that's going to be right in the center. Now this isn't the normal way. The recommended way for putting something in the chuck is to make a tenon on there, and then you put in the tenon and have the material resting on the face of the chuck here. But so I'm not pushing any pressure on it this way. I'm putting pressure on it this way, so it gives me a very, very firm hold of material in there that way. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to put a mark on there. I want a 1/2 inch diameter. The hole in the top of the body, I want a 1/2 inch diameter. Now originally I started out with 3/4 inch. When I was doing these other ornaments, I'd make a 3/4 inch hole here, or diameter here. But then I found out with the 1 3/4, and the hole I'm drilling in here is 1 1/4, 1 3/4. So I only had 1/4 inch to play with on here. If I make this 3/4 inch, by the time I get the countersink down in there, my thickness of my material here is very thin on that wall right there, and I don't have much glue surface. I want to put the glue on the tenon instead of here. You put the glue up here, and you put it in. It's going to squeeze out. So if you put the glue on the tenon, you put it in, and it actually holds in the hole. You don't have the glue squeeze out. So I need to have a little bit thicker material here. So by the time I put the tenon in there, or put the tenon and the taper in there, I still had some wall thickness. Here I've got about a little bit over 1/8 of an inch wall thickness. So I got a good glue surface. So to do that, I had to go to a smaller hole, not go in so deep with the 45-degree taper. So I'm only going, instead of 3/4 I did on the paper, I'm only going in to make a 1/2 inch. And the way I was doing it I had one of the countersinks was a 1/4 inch diameter, or 3/4 inch diameter. So I would just go in until I got down to here. This was 3/4 inch here, and I would just take take the hole as deep enough to get down to the shoulder there. Well, with the 1/2 inch, it was hard to judge, so I start out just putting a 1/2 inch diameter circle on the block of wood, and then when I make my taper, I use that as a guideline of how deep I'm going to go. So the first thing I need to do is drill a hole drill my 1/4 inch hole. Well, I'm only putting this on 2 sides. I'm only putting the 1/4 inch hole through through this direction. I'm cross drilling this one, and I don't mark those. If you try to go all the way through, it's not going to come out on the center over here. So you come in from here in the center, go halfway, you turn the block around, come in half there the other way, and that way the hole on both ends are the same. When I cross drill it doesn't matter if they're off a little bit, because when I cross drill, they don't have to meet in the center. But I want the hole to be in the center on the top and bottom. Okay, when I'm working at home, I always wear my face shield, regardless of what I'm doing, or most often I wear the Print Air Shield Pro for dust protection also. But in here, it hinders talking, plus this is fairly small stuff, so I'm not too concerned about just wearing safety glasses. Okay, we're going to turn the speed up. If you look at the drilling charts, it says for a 1/4 inch 4s and a bit, you can go to 1,000 RPMs. Okay, and I'm just going to and then you can run this through and clean it up. Let's go ahead and take that out. I don't want to stick my hand in that. This is just a 1/4 inch drill put in a handle, and you can come back and just clean it up, any torn fibers in there that the brad point bit might have left. Okay, so now what I found is if I just take the countersink bit at this point, and I never realized why it was doing it until we had Nick Cook was in here last Thursday, and he said something that says, that's what my problem is. The grain densities are not the same in this piece of wood. I got a bit of sapwood here and a bit of heartwood here. And if you just try boring that hole completely with a countersink, it's not going to end up in the center of that hole. It's going to be off slightly. So what I do is I use the spindle gouge to make the initial hole, and then I come back with the countersink bit just to clean it up. Okay, we set the tool height. I want my cutter to be right in the center of the block. And I'm going to come up to about 1800. Now you got to be careful when you present the tool. If you present the tool with the sharp point, it's going to hit on there, and you're going to have a nice spiral coming back off the block of the wood. I don't have an example there, but yeah, here's an example. If you touch it with the point of the tool, it's not showing up on the camera. And you see the spiral cut on there? See that spiral cut going out like that? That's what happens when you're presenting that point. If you present the cutting edge, it'll back up like that. So when you come in, you have to put the bevel against the wood. Put the bevel against the wood, and then ease it in like that. If my head gets in the way, just say so. Okay, that should be good. Okay, now we'll finish that off with the countersink just to dress it up. Now we'll go down to, I think, about 300 for that. And now again on this, I've got my pencil. I made my spindle gouge cut. Can you see that spindle gouge cut on the line? So I just need to go in with the countersink until I get an even cut on. Let me wheel it around this way. So can you see the cutter that way? Oh, I didn't. I guess I should cut this up. You see the cutter there now? Okay, and I just want to go in until I see the shavings coming clear out to the surface there, right there. See I got to cut all the way across the face of that 45-degree taper there. So I know then I've got a good straight line there that doesn't have a hump or anything in the center. And then here's where you might want to go through and clean that up again and get the fibers out of there. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side, but for sake of time, I've already prepped the other side. So now we need to go through and do the cross boring. Now on this one, I'm not so concerned about it's since the block is a cube, it's going to be very, very close to the center, so I don't have to be too concerned about putting the live center in like it did before. And again, I'm using this is a Freud Forstner bit from out here. It's the precision shear, and the thing I like about this is it's got this serrated sort of edge on here. It gives you a really nice smooth cut. And then periodically I'll just touch it up. I've got a diamond file here. It's got a flat on here that I'll come down and I'll come on like this to touch up the cutting surface edge there, and then with the rounded side, then I can come down on the taper there and I can just clean up that rounding to continually give me a nice sharp edge there, because it's going to give you the sharper cut is going to. I don't want to have get rid of as much tear out as I can inside there, because when I finish it, I don't want to have to be going in there and doing a lot of sanding in there. This is 1 1/4. You see it? And I say I chose 1 1/4. The ornament here is, I think it's about a 1 inch, but yeah, it's just slightly less than 1 inch. But I had to leave room. This you'll see. I can't use this hanging up here because it's too long. I'm going to be modifying that. So with 1 inch, it gives me about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around the thing. It gives me room then to put my my hanging binding in there to hold it inside the opening. So that's the size. The bit was sized to fit the ornament that I. And again, these are just, if you go to Michael's. The Michael's down in Snellville, they're all gone. But you get there Thanksgiving time when they first put the Christmas stuff out. There's a whole section of miniature Christmas tree ornaments. And these were coming up. You got red, green, gold, silver. So several different colors they have. But I just like the sparkle on them. Okay, and there's a little bit of free play in that tailstock, and the mini lathes even more. Powermatic, I don't know so much about the Powermatic, but there's always a bit of free play in the tailstock. So instead of latching it down and forcing it to go in there, I'll get the spinning going. I'll just push it in there and let it find the center. And then once it finds the center, then I latch it down. Now I'm going to be drilling it. We'll see if you should be able to see the hole there. You can see a bit of an opening right there where I've drilled through there. We can drill down in there until we see. Only want to go halfway again. Yeah, there you can see it now. See that little bit of a glint right in there? You can see that shiny bit right there in this. That's what I can tell there. I'm in halfway because I can see the bit through the shadow of that hole. Can you see it up on the screen? Okay, you look at the, it's pretty smooth, but if you want to do any sanding in there, now's the time to do it. And I'll start off with about 150, and then graduate down to 180 and 220 and 320. Yeah, there's 220, and this should be. This is 320. So you can see there, the surface in there is pretty smooth. So I don't have to do any more. Once I get the ornament out like this, you know, it's kind of tedious to try to sit there and sand it around. Like, it's much easier to sand it there like that. Okay, does anybody want to see me bore out 3 more holes, or just go right on to one that's already bored out?
I think I got it.
So it's just a matter of rotating it around. I typically come in from the opposite side and get that disc out of the center there. Okay, I'm pushing it. It's down against the base of the jaws. Since this is a cube, it's going to be very, very close to being in the center. Okay, there's, you hear that? There's slop in the tailstock. If I brought that up there and had it like this and lashed it down, it might not be in the center. And when you start drilling it, you'd see it sort of going off because it wasn't in the center. So I let it run and just slide it up there and let it find the center where it wants to be. So it's found the center of rotation. That point is stuck in there. Point's in there, now it's latched down. Let me get that disc out of there. And again, we'll go through and while we've got it here, we'll go ahead and sand it. Okay, so now we do the same thing on the other 2 surfaces and drill it all the way through. But the cheaper bits out here that don't have that serration, this bit was $16. You can get them out there for $4 or $5, but you're going to get a lot more tear out on the walls with that bit. Okay, so then we go on. We're ready to mount the body and turn it. And so there, instead of going like this, turning and letting go and turning and letting go, if you let go right when it's released from those threads, it's going to fall. So you hold on to here and you turn that. Okay, I'm using the pen mandrel that I got from Woodcraft. Is threaded for I think it's a 5/16 inch thread, so I can use it with a drawbar. I don't in this situation here where I've got it coming up the tailstock, I don't really need the drawbar, but since I've got it, I use it. Okay, I'm just using. Now you could use regular pen mandrels or the pen bushings, pen mandrel bushings. But since this is a much larger block of wood than a pen, you're not going to get a lot of force on there. Plus, you're going to be dinging up your taper in there. So I made my own bushings with a 45-degree taper on it. And if you really crank that down, you can actually split that wood. So you just crank it down enough to where it's got a good. I can still turn it, but I'm going to be taking light cuts, and it's going to be enough. Okay, now I'm going to use the. This has got a 45 or 60-degree cone in it that you can. Some people just put a live center in there with a 60-degree cone, but I use this. This is just a cheap from Penn State. Their Mandrel Saver. And you feel that the bearings have gotten kind of catchy, and it's not an expensive live center, and so the bearings aren't real high quality. And the directions that come with this say not to use the knurled nut. You just use pressure from here to keep that from turning. Well, you got to put a lot of pressure on that bearing to do that, and it's not a very expensive bearing. So I still use the knurled nut, and I'll just use the live center just to support that. So there's a little bit of free play in there. So to take up that free play and also protect those threads a little bit, I just put some masking tape on there. And this, I think this is 3/4 inch masking tape. It's just the right width to make one revolution around there without any overlap. So I just cut off a strip this way and then put it on the width of the tape going around the shaft, and it just comes to where it just touches, or just short of touching. And now it takes up a little bit of that slop in there, plus it protects the threads on the Some people insist on putting it on this side, and I like it on the other side. The reason I like it like this is I get both controls here at one time. Okay, you know what? When I adjust the tool height, when I start doing the spindle gouge, I need to end up with the spindle gouge in that orientation. So if my tool rest is up too high or too low, I want the comfortable height when I come around that corner of the tool rest to be just a little bit too high still yet. So that's why I adjust the tool rest so that finishing cut is going to be a good, when I come around the corner, it's going to be the right orientation or level. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to knock the corners off to where I get down to not having any. If you can see that flat in there, I want to knock the corners off, or not this flat here. I want to knock the corners off to get rid of that flat area right there, so there's no flat between the edge here and there. And with the lathe turning, you get a contrasting. Let's see. Move it over so there we go. So the overhead camera there, you can see. Yeah, when you see on the overhead camera, you should be able to see that. Now you can see that shadow. That shadow, well, I guess you can probably see it better over here. See, there's the edge of the inside of the hole, and here's the outside of the block. So when I'm turning, I'm going to be watching up here, and I'm going to go until I get rid of that shadow line. There's about 1600. And he's taking light cuts. And I'm putting the bevel on the wood and then bringing the cutting edge up until it just starts to cut. Just about there. And you see there now that shadow is, I don't see that surface there anymore. So I don't have any flat at all there, because I was just looking at that shadow, and I can see where that shadow is at to see how deep I need to go. So next thing then is to round the corners off, and we're going to do the same sort of thing. I'm going to be looking at the shadow of this here, and then use that as a guide for making that turn. Okay, I can't start back here and oh, that's something else I do, is mark the center line. Actually, this was I made these a 1/16 of an inch. These are actually, instead of 1 3/4, they're 1 13/16. Right there. The 7/8 mark, there's the center there. Yep. Now just transfer that line to the other surfaces. Okay, now that just gives me a guide then when I'm turning it, I know where to make the high spot at. Okay, now again, I can't start here in the center and start going all the way in, so I just got to nibble away at the corners. Got about 1800. The motion is, I need to start out down here like this with the bevel rubbing, and then as I go around the corner, that bevel needs to follow the contour, and I need to raise the handle then, so I end up like that. And it's not a speed test. You don't have to do it in one quick zippy motion. You can go just as slow as you want to go. Okay, now I'm watching that shadow, again, watching the shadow there. And so I can tell, like when I saw that disappear, that's how I could tell that I had went deep enough, because I could that bit of shadow disappeared. I don't think you can see it very well on the camera, but I'm looking up here, and as I'm removing the material, I can see it. I can see where that contour. Can you see it? You can't really see it on the camera. Okay, that was the easy side, because I'm taking the handles going around. Then this side here, the handle wants to come hit me in the side, so I'll switch to a shorter, smaller tool once I get the corner knocked off here. Let's see, I'm not going fast enough. Something's loose. I need to move this over because I need this where I can see that. It'd probably work if I had some darker paper or something there, but I'm using this as contrast to look against. With the floor down there, but I need a surface that you can use as a background or back to see what's going on. Now see, I'm having to come clear like this, and I can't really see what I'm doing with that long handle. That's why a lot of spindle guides you see out here, the handles are way too long. This works much better. But yeah, just laying a piece of paper down there or something. But that gives me enough contrast that I can see against there. Now I've got it off to where the camera's not seeing it for you, but that's enough contrast for me to see. So with this, so now I'm not dealing with that handle trying to hit me in the side. And again, like I say, it's not a speed test. You don't have to rush into this. You can just take your time. Keep the bevel. The key is to keep the bevel of the cutting tool in the direction that you're wanting to cut. So you have to keep moving that around as you come around that curve. Keep that bevel pointing in the direction of the cut. Okay, so I've got just a little bit of there's no flat surface there, but there's flat surface right here. So I need to come around and take some more off down there. This is nice, but you can see there's still a bit of flat right there. Yeah, it went a little bit too deep there. Okay. Now I got a little bit of rough right in here. I got a little bit of high area right there. So if I can get rid of that. Pretty good. And we just touch there. There's still few little ridges, and then we can just easily quickly go over that with some probably 220. That's 180, and just go like that, and you can quickly knock those get rid of those little ridges there, and make it a smooth.
Is it possible to sand something like that with the lathe turning?
Yes. Here, I'll show you. Yeah, well, I'll show you how I do it. So I take a sheet of paper and I cut it into 4 or 9 pieces. I draw lines both directions, and I end up with a piece like that, and I fold it so I don't have grit facing each other. Where can you see that? You want to zoom in there? So I fold it in thirds like that. So I got 2 surfaces here, and then when that wears out, I can flip this over, and I got another surface then that I can use. Okay, so I just hold it cupped like this. I don't put my fingers underneath there, but I just go back and forth, back down like that. And I can sand over those. And of course, I'm going to turn the speed up. The faster you can turn it, the better it's going to ride across there. So you can see I got the. Came up pretty good on. There's a little bit of sanding right now. With this sanding here, I would just sand that by hand across like that to get rid of. You see it? I would just sand that across like that. This side here came up pretty good. But here's the one that I sand just briefly went across with some sandpaper. There's still a little bit of a ridge right there that I didn't get out, but you can see what it was after with the tool, what the difference was. I'll go ahead and I'll assemble it. I'll show you how I put the ball in there. Okay, the ornaments as they come, just like a regular Christmas tree ornament, it's got this, like typical Christmas tree ornaments, it's got this cap on the top with a loop in there. Well, like I say, that loop is way too big. In order to use that, I would have to take that and double it to make the hole that much bigger in order to fit that in the way it is. But this just simply pulls out like that. And the hole that's left in there is too big. I'm going to make a loop that's about a 1/16 of an inch in diameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use that hole. I'm going to make a hole up here on the other side that's opposite that. So with that hanging down in there, you don't even see that hole in the bottom of there. So, but you would see the bits right there around that hole. So I just come along and trim that off just so there isn't any protrusion hanging down below there to show that it's not round. So just get rid of that stuff there. And then what I do is I'll put it on the drill press, and I'll eye it. I want to drill a hole directly on the opposite side of that. So I'll put it on the drill press, and I'll drill a small hole. Here's the original hole. And there's the hole that I drilled. Okay, so I'm going to reuse this wire, but again, that loop is too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that wire and I'm going to wrap it around, bend it around one more time, and that'll make the loop smaller. And to do that, I'm going to use these pliers here. These are some pliers I got from, I think they're orthodontist, or the guy that does braces, orthodont, who the guy is that does, dentist that does braces. I think these are pliers that are meant for that use there, but I can form the curve in that wire like with these pliers. What I'll do is I'll just come up here in the center and just squeeze it down, and then just work my way around the loop, making that loop smaller. See this? Okay, now come on the other side over here. This is a good, when you're doing this in your shop, it's a good idea to sweep up all the sawdust off the floor so it's easier to find when it flies out of your hand. And I always remember to do that right after it fell out of my hands. You just work your way around, and then just what I want to do is I want to just wrap that wire around until I get it about like that. And then that's, I'm going to stick that back down in that bowl, but these arms now are way too long. So I don't really need it with this wire, but I'm going to use this music wire to make the other loop. But these are hardened pliers for cutting music wire. Just need to cut that off about like that. So I end up with a piece about like that. And then you take that and squeeze those bits together and grab them with needle nose pliers. Right there, I got the pins squeezed together. And I find my little hole. All you do is get it started in there. Okay, so now I've got a loop that's much more manageable to hang the ornament from. Okay. So now the next thing is to make a corresponding loop that's going to fit. When I made this finial, I drilled this hole in the bottom. It should be drilled all the way through. Probably not. But it's drilled in that deep. So I'm going to use just the tension on the wire. I'm not going to glue it in there because I may want to change the color of that ball someday, or maybe the glitter comes off and I want to put a new glitter on. Or if I glue it in, you wouldn't be able to get it back out again. I'm just going to use this friction fit of the thing. I'm going to stuff it up in there and just use the friction of the spring. This is music wire. It doesn't bend, or it'll retain the position you put it in. So I'm going to cut it out. I say the hole was that deep, so I want to cut it about twice that long. About like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to bend it all the way around. All I'm going to do is just make a loop. I'm going to just come in the center, like that, and you just squeeze it down, and then just go around. I want to just get the starting of the loop. Like that. So I get it in about, can you see that? Position like that, and then I'm going to put it over here and just bend that wire out. It's there. Then go to the other side and bend it the other direction. And now I've got that. Okay, now with that, I squeeze that together, hold it, and I always test fit it in the finial before I stick it up inside there to make sure it's going to go in there okay. Now that's my, so that's the size loop I got in there, and that's just held in there. That's just a friction fit in there. So now to put it together, you stick this in through there like that. Go ahead and put this up in here. Squeeze them together with the pliers. And then use, can you see it there? Just put it in the hole. Just push it up in the hole. Like that. Okay, that's it for the body.